Let's talk about the phrase you've heard 1,000 times but never questioned. Just stay positive. It's everywhere. On social media, on mugs, on t-shirts, even in the mouths of well-meaning friends who don't know what else to say. Just smile. Don't think about it. Good vibes only. But here's the truth. No one's been bold enough to say out loud. Sometimes positivity can be toxic. Sometimes the pressure to stay happy is exactly what's keeping people stuck in silence, suffering, and shame. Welcome to the dark side of modern motivation, the world of toxic positivity. It looks good, it sounds encouraging, but underneath the surface, it's sending one dangerous message. If you feel something uncomfortable, you're doing life wrong. And that's not only untrue, it's destructive. You see, somewhere along the way, we confused suppression with strength. We started thinking that hiding our pain made us brave, that smiling through heartbreak made us admirable, that pretending to be okay made us motivated. But let's be clear, real motivation doesn't come from denying your struggle. It comes from facing it head on. This video is not about painting over your problems with empty words. This is about unmasking toxic positivity and showing you what real, lasting, honest motivation actually looks like. Because you don't need more noise. You don't need another influencer yelling, "You got this," while you're crying in silence. You don't need another forced smile while you carry the weight of the world behind your eyes. What you need is truth. Grounded, compassionate, powerful truth. You need a voice that doesn't shame your sadness. A voice that tells you it's okay to feel tired. It's okay to cry. It's okay to admit that today is hard and still believe that tomorrow can be different. You're not broken because you feel broken. You're not weak because... The lie we've been sold. Let's begin with a hard truth. We've been lied to. In a world obsessed with good vibes, high energy, and non-stop smiles, we've been taught that positivity is the key to everything. But what they didn't tell us is that forced positivity can become poison, that pretending everything is okay when your world is falling apart isn't strength, it's self-abandonment. Everywhere you look, someone is telling you to stay positive, look on the bright side, or just be grateful. And while positivity can be powerful, when it becomes a mask, a shield used to hide real emotion, it becomes toxic. That's what we call toxic positivity. And it's one of the most dangerous mindsets keeping people stuck today. You've heard it. You've probably even said it. Don't be sad. Things could be worse. Everything happens for a reason. Just keep smiling. It'll all work out. But deep down, you know it doesn't always feel that simple. Because sometimes things really are hard. Sometimes you're not okay. And sometimes no amount of smiling will fix what's broken. Toxic positivity tries to silence that. It shames sadness. It minimizes pain. It tells you that struggling is a sign of weakness, when in reality, acknowledging your struggle is where real strength begins. Let's get one thing clear. Real motivation isn't afraid of the dark. It doesn't ignore your pain. It walks you through it. It doesn't plaster over your problems with empty affirmations. It teaches you how to face them with resilience. You were never meant to be happy all the time. That's not real. That's not human. And any message that says you need to be constantly smiling to be successful is selling you a false dream. You don't need another good vibes only slogan. You need permission to be real, to cry, to feel, to grieve, to fall apart and still rise stronger than ever. I need motivation that's built on truth, not toxic positivity. Motivation that says, yes, you're hurting, but you're still worthy. Motivation that sees your scars and still believes in your comeback. Motivation that reminds you, you are not broken because you feel broken. You're growing. So today, we unmask the lie. We break the illusion. Because real growth starts where honesty begins. And if you're brave enough to face your truth, you're strong enough to change your life. Toxic positivity wants you to keep pretending. But real motivation, it wants you to keep fighting, truthfully. Pain is not the enemy. It's the doorway. We've been taught to fear pain like it's the villain in our story. But the truth is, pain isn't the enemy, it's the doorway. It's the messenger that knocks on your heart and says, there's something here you haven't dealt with. It's the signal that something inside you is shifting, breaking, expanding. Toxic positivity tries to erase pain. It tells you to move on before you've even processed what you went through. It whispers, just let it go, while your heart is still bleeding. But pain doesn't go away because you ignore it. Pain grows in the shadows. It becomes bitterness. It becomes numbness. It becomes self-doubt, self-sabotage, and silent suffering. But when you face your pain, when you look it in the eye and say, I see you and I won't run anymore, that's when healing begins. That's when transformation begins. Every powerful human being you admire has walked through pain. Every champion, every leader, every warrior you look up to. They didn't become strong by avoiding the fire. They became strong because they endured it. They chose to walk through the discomfort, the tears, the fear, and the failure. And they came out refined. You can't become who you're meant to be while running from the parts of you that are hurting. You have to sit with it. You have to feel it. Not because you want to suffer, but because your pain holds wisdom. Your heartbreaks hold stories. Your disappointments reveal patterns. Your breakdowns often contain the very blueprints for your breakthrough. Real motivation doesn't tell you to skip the hard part. It says, go through it. Face it. You're strong enough, even when you don't feel like it. Think about it. The most beautiful things in nature come through pressure and pain. Diamonds are formed under intense heat. Seeds push through darkness before they bloom. The sky cracks open before the light breaks through. Why would it be any different with you? You're not weak because you're in pain. You're not broken because you're struggling. You're human. And part of being human is honoring every part of your experience. The joy and the sorrow, the triumphs and the trials. You don't grow by skipping steps. You grow by walking through each one, fully present. And yes, it hurts. But that pain, that's where the fire starts. That's where you remember your power. That's where you begin to rebuild yourself stronger, wiser, deeper. So today, instead of avoiding your pain, walk into it with purpose. Because the very thing you've been running from might just be the exact thing that sets you free. Stop faking strength. Start building it. In a world that glorifies the image of being strong, we've confused silence with power. We've confused perfection with worth. We've been taught to wear strength like a mask, to smile when we're exhausted, to act unfazed when we're falling apart inside, to keep going just so no one sees our cracks. But let's be honest, faking strength is not strength, it's survival. And while surviving may get you through the day, it won't build the life you truly want. Toxic positivity pushes you to pretend. It convinces you that being vulnerable means you're weak, that asking for help is a flaw, that struggle must be hidden if you want to be seen as in control. But this mindset is not empowering. It's exhausting. Because when you fake strength, you become disconnected from yourself. You bottle emotions until they explode. You say, I'm fine, when you're anything but. You show up for others while abandoning your own needs. And eventually, pretending to be okay becomes heavier than simply admitting that you're not. That's why real motivation isn't about faking it until you make it. It's about facing it until you build it. True strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up after you do. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about moving through it with awareness and courage. Real strength is messy. It's the late night tears. It's the moment you admit, I can't do this alone. It's choosing progress over pride. It's saying, I need help, and not apologizing for it. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to live up to a curated version of yourself that only shows highlight reels and hides the process. You need to give yourself permission to be human and to grow from there. Because building strength takes time. It happens in the small moments. Choosing discipline over comfort. Owing up to your goals when you don't feel motivated. Setting boundaries even when it feels uncomfortable. Saying no to what drains you and yes to what heals you. You build strength every time you act in alignment with your truth, not your image. And no, you don't need to broadcast your struggle to the world. But you do need to be honest with yourself. Strength is not a performance. It's a practice. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It's the quiet resolve that says, I'll try again tomorrow. So stop faking it. You don't owe the world a perfect version of you. You owe yourself the space to grow into the strongest version of you, the real you, because the world needs your truth, not your performance. Real motivation is rooted in truth. Let's get something straight. Real motivation is not hype. It's not a quick burst of inspiration that disappears by morning. It's not a perfect quote on a clean background. It's not someone shouting, you got this, while you're drowning silently inside. Real motivation is rooted in truth, not sugar-coated words, not blind optimism, not cliches that sound good but mean nothing when you're in the trenches. Toxic positivity tells you to ignore the bad, overlook the pain, and focus on the bright side, no matter what. But real motivation meets you where you are. In the mess, in the confusion, in the breakdown. And it says, you're not crazy, you're not weak, you're human, and you're going to rise from right here. Because the truth is, we don't need another voice telling us to just believe. We need voices that tell us why we're still worth believing in, even when everything feels like it's falling apart. You want to know what real motivation sounds like? It sounds like, I know it hurts, and I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. I know you're tired, and it's okay to rest without guilt. I know you're scared, but fear doesn't mean you're not ready. It means this matters to you. It doesn't avoid your darkness. It doesn't silence your anxiety. It doesn't shame your struggle. It sits with you in it. And then, slowly, it shows you the way forward, not with pressure, but with presence. Real motivation is patient. It doesn't rush your healing. It doesn't demand overnight change. It understands that growth takes time and that showing up when you feel broken is still an act of power. This kind of motivation doesn't slap positivity over pain. It helps you process your pain and turn it into purpose. It tells you, you're allowed to not be okay, but you're not going to stay there. You're going to move. Not because it's easy, but because you're worth it. When you begin to replace toxic positivity with real honest truth, something incredible happens. You start to believe in yourself. Not because someone told you to, but because you've faced your truth and survived it. You've walked through fire and found out that your spirit was fireproof. Real motivation doesn't disconnect you from your emotions. It teaches you how to move through them. It doesn't demand a perfect version of you. It reminds you that your real, raw, unfiltered self is enough. So stop reaching for hollow hype. Start reaching for truth. Because real motivation, it won't always sound pretty, but it will set you free. Growth isn't always pretty, but it's always worth it. Let's get real about something most people won't tell you. Growth is not glamorous. It's not a highlight reel. It's not perfectly filtered. It's not clean, comfortable, or convenient. Growth is messy. Growth is painful. Growth is confusing and slow and frustrating and lonely. And most of the time, it doesn't even look like progress while you're in it. But here's the truth. Just because growth doesn't look good doesn't mean it's not working. Just because you're not where you want to be doesn't mean you're failing. Real transformation happens behind the scenes, in the small, quiet, uncomfortable moments when no one's clapping and no one's watching. Toxic positivity tells you that life is only good when it feels good, that happiness means you're doing things right. But that's a trap, because the second life gets hard, and it will. You start to question yourself. You think, why am I struggling? Why am I stuck? What's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. You're growing. You're shedding old beliefs. You're letting go of past versions of yourself. You're learning how to trust yourself, how to speak up, how to move forward even when you're scared. That's not failure. That's evolution. You don't level up by staying comfortable. You don't get stronger by avoiding resistance. Think of your muscles. They only grow when they're challenged, when they're pushed, when they're torn down and rebuilt. Your character, your mindset, your emotional strength, they grow the same way. Through repetition, through friction, through discomfort. You might cry, you might question everything, you might want to give up. And guess what? That's part of the process. You're allowed to feel all of it, but don't confuse feeling uncomfortable with being unqualified. The uncomfortable parts are not the end of your story. They're the turning points. They're the exact places where you're becoming someone new. Real motivation doesn't pretend growth is easy. It just reminds you that it's worth it. It whispers to you in the middle of your breakdown and says, keep going. This moment matters more than you know. The truth is, growth will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you old habits, toxic relationships, and excuses you've clung to. But what you gain in return, self-respect, clarity, purpose, peace, is priceless. So when you're in the middle of the process and nothing looks the way you imagined, when you're questioning whether it's all worth it, remember this. Every version of you that broke down is the reason you're still rising. Every tear, every step, every sacrifice, it's shaping something powerful inside you. And no, it's not always pretty. But when you look back, you'll realize it was always worth it. The motivation you deserve in 2025. In 2025, you don't need more empty hype. You don't need another post telling you to just be happy or good vibes only. You need motivation that sees all of you. Not just your highlights, but your hurt. Not just your wins, but your wounds. Not just your glow up, but the grind that came before it. You need motivation that isn't afraid of your realness. One that doesn't ask you to hide your tears, bury your pain, or fake a smile just to make others comfortable. Because you've been through too much to settle for surface-level encouragement. In 2025, what you truly need is truth-based motivation. The kind that meets you in the middle of your mess and says, you're still worthy, you're still powerful, you're still becoming. Toxic positivity wants you to skip the healing and jump to the success. But real motivation wants you to own every part of the process. It reminds you that falling apart is sometimes the first step toward falling into place. It doesn't push you to suppress. It invites you to process. because suppression isn't strength, clarity is. You deserve motivation that says it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to need time. It's okay to rest. But it's not okay to give up on yourself. Not now. Not this year. 2025 is your reset, not the kind that demands perfection, but the kind that demands honesty. It's the year you stop seeking motivation that only looks good and start embracing the kind that actually works. You don't need to be told you're limitless. You need to be reminded that even with limits, you are capable of greatness. You don't need to be told to think positive. You need the tools to think powerfully. You don't need motivation that denies the storm. You need one that teaches you how to anchor yourself through it. You deserve motivation that tells you you're not behind. You're not broken. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You are a work in progress, and progress doesn't mean pretending. It means showing up, messy, imperfect, honest, real. That's what you owe yourself this year, not more fake positivity, more authenticity, more alignment, more truth. So in 2025, choose the kind of motivation that feels like a mirror, not a mask. One that reflects who you are, not who you're expected to be. One that challenges you with grace, encourages you with truth, and stays with you even when you stumble. Because real motivation isn't loud, it's loyal. It stays when things get hard. And it reminds you over and over again, you don't have to be perfect to keep moving forward. You just have to be honest, intentional, and committed to your growth. You've made it to the end of this message, not just by watching, but by staying open. And in a world where so many people hide behind filters and fake smiles, your honesty is a quiet act of bravery. What we've just explored together isn't just a conversation. It's a call to wake up, to stop chasing hollow positivity, to stop pretending that everything is fine when it's not, to stop wearing strength like a costume just to survive another day. You've been told that positivity means smiling through the storm, but I want you to know, it's okay to cry in the rain. It's okay to feel everything and still move forward. It's okay to not be okay and still be growing. Real motivation doesn't ignore your pain. It doesn't demand a perfect mindset. It doesn't punish you for being human. Real motivation walks beside you through the valley. It doesn't drag you. It invites you to rise, not because you're supposed to have it all figured out, but because you're capable of facing your life without pretending anymore. You've been given permission today to let go of toxic positivity and instead embrace powerful truth. The kind of truth that sets you free, free to feel deeply, free to grow honestly, free to change without shame. You don't need another quote to paste over your pain. You need a reminder that what you feel is valid, and what you do with that feeling is powerful. You are not weak for being emotional. You are not broken for needing rest. You are not behind just because your journey doesn't look like someone else's. You are real. And real people go through real things, but real people also make real comebacks. So here's your challenge moving forward. Start choosing authenticity over appearance. Start choosing depth over denial. Start choosing healing over pretending. In this season of your life, let go of the idea that motivation has to sound loud and look flawless. Let it be quiet, steady, brave, real. Let your strength show up in the way you get out of bed when everything inside says stay down. Let it show up in your boundaries, in your honesty, in your commitment to keep showing up, even if your voice shakes, even if your steps are slow, because this is what real motivation looks like. And this is what you look like when you stop pretending and start becoming. So if no one has told you this today, you're allowed to feel it all. You're allowed to struggle and still be strong. You're allowed to be real and still rise. This is your time to let go of the fake and walk fully in your truth. Because you don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be honest. And that's more than enough.